Hey guys, and welcome to the Kurima podcast, where we talk about business, finance, entrepreneurship, and real estate. I'm your host, Jason Kurima, and I have a very special guest today, Jason Jarrell.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah. So Jason is a freaking killer. He has flipped 76 houses over a 15-month period?
Yeah.
That's insane. So I'm really excited about getting into your story, and I know you used to flip couches, and here you are flipping all these houses now. So let's just dive in, man.
Yeah, no, with the preface of I could have done all that with the fantastic team that I have. Myself and my business partner, we put a ton of effort into last year, and definitely couldn't have done that with all those people. So, yeah. But digging into my journey, this goes way back. I guess 3 years ago, and it was my junior year in college. I was living in a duplex, and I had a single car garage. My dad purchased a duplex for my sister and I to live in, and she got the side with the 2-car garage, which I was bummed out about at the time that I didn't get the 2-car. But anyway, I'm playing baseball at Evangel, going to college for physical therapy, and my sister is getting married, and she wanted to rent these wooden table toppers that go on each table, and you put the vases on them and flowers in them and what have you. And she was like, I'm not paying, however much it was to rent them. And I was like, don't worry, I'll go to the farm and cut them down, because back home we have some land. And I was like, I'll just cut a tree down and cut some slices, and it'll be great. I cut like 400 slices, because I was like, I bet I can sell these. Like, if she's getting married and she's not the only one that wants these. And so I'll never forget my old red truck. I had all these paper cardboard boxes filled with, hundreds of wood slices. And I go back, and she wanted 30 or 40 of them. And I post them on Facebook, and they start selling really well. And I kind of got the itch to sell things. And I was like, okay, well, my truck doesn't fit in this single car garage anyway. So I get on Facebook, and I start picking up all the free firewood that I can find. And so my garage is just filled with firewood from around Springfield, cutting it in my front yard in the middle of the city. My neighbors probably hated me. I'd be out there for hours. But I sold a handful of these things, and I sold enough of them to get tired of doing manual labor in the heat to make a few $100. And I was a broke college kid, and I was like, man, this is great money, but I want to sell one thing and make a few $100. And so I kind of gravitated towards, well, there's things for free on Facebook. Let's see what's going on there. And so I start picking up free things. I had my success really initially with used chest freezers. I would spray paint them black or white and turn old ones into really nice looking new ones. And I made $200 on a chest freezer, and I was like, this is crazy. I've never it took me like an hour to do or whatever. Yeah. But anyway, I pick up my first couch, and it was a nasty little brown couch. I got it for free, and I sold it for $80 within like an hour of listing it. And I was like, man, I way underlisted that. And that was like the first thing that I really saw that was flying off the shelves. I had, 20, 30 messages about it. And I was like, okay, let's see what I can do. And so I start looking for free couches, and it turns out there's a ton of them, and no one else is looking for them but me. And so I fill my single car garage up with the way that it wasn't a perfect square, but the way that I had it, I could put 13 of them on their end and get them all in my garage. And so I immediately fill it up, and if there was a good deal, I would put it in my living room. And sometimes I would have 3 or 4 couches in my living room because I didn't have enough space. But fast forward a little bit, my sister gets married, she moves out, getting a little bit better at doing the couches. And but then I get another 2-car garage space, and I immediately fill that up. And so this was about the time, I remember on my board, I was trying to make $3,000 a month selling couches. And I was like really disappointed one month when I didn't hit the goal, and I had all these couches, and I was like, man, I got to rethink this, because it's hard work. It's dirty work.
Yeah. And you mentioned your board. Are you talking about your vision board?
So I had this little calendar where I would try and write stuff out on it. And at the bottom was the only thing that I paid attention to. I would write out the months, and I was like, I want to make $500 a month selling couches, $1,200, $2,000, $3,000. And that was a ton of money to me at the time. Yeah. And so I'll never forget, I set the goal to make like $3,000, and I barely made $1,500. And I was like, okay, let's turn the knob up and let's take this more seriously. Then my sister moves out, and I get more space. And so this is right around the time when I'm graduating from my undergrad in physical therapy. And then what you do after that is you go and get your doctorate in physical therapy. It's a 3-year program. It's a good degree. It's a great career. You get to help a lot of people. But through flipping these couches, my love for business began to bud, and I began to realize that was what I was really intrigued in. And so all throughout my undergrad, I day traded in all my classes. I was super involved in the stock market. I was the only, at Evangel, we had what was called a student investment group. We managed like $4 million, and the profits went to scholarships for students at the school.
Oh, that's really cool.
I was the only person that wasn't a business major that was in, it was called SIG, Student Investment Group, and I managed it for 2 years. And it was just, I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm so interested in the stock market. And so day trading on my classes, I get to the end of my degree and I'm like, Dad, I want to be a day trader. I've been trading in my classes. Like, this is what I want to do. And he was like, no, you just went to school for 4 years. You need to finish your degree. And if you don't want to do it after that, then be a day trader. But you need to finish, because my degree in undergrad was pre-physical therapy, which really isn't good for anything unless you go on and get your doctorate. Mm-hmm. And so I drag my feet. I don't submit any applications to get into school. And he calls me the week before pretty mad. And he was like, hey, you submitted those applications yet? And I was like, nope, I haven't submitted any of them. And he was like, well, you better get on it, because, that's what we talked about. And that's what we agreed on. And I ended up going into the program, and I was like, okay, he's right. I really don't have anything sustainable to do besides this degree. And I was also flipping on these couches. So I was like, okay, let me turn the knob up on these couches and really see what I can do. And so I get lucky and buy the duplex next door to me. As a broke college kid, I couldn't believe they gave me a loan on it. No money down. And it had a 2-car and 1-car garage. I rented it out to my friends, and I filled up those garages with couches.
Which is freaking genius.
Yeah, I couldn't believe they let me do it.
So how'd you get the loan? Was it, you said no money down, did it appraise well enough, or what happened?
It did. I had no idea what I was doing, and I bought a screaming deal. I had been listening to Bigger Pockets at the time, first few episodes. I remember this so vividly. I came home. I came back to Springfield the first day I got back from Christmas break, and the lady that lived next door, she was struggling with a few things, and she had trouble with her mobility, and so I'd help her move things from time to time. And I get home, and I had a big quart of honey, and I walk over, and I was like, hey, if you ever want to sell this, I'd love to buy it. Here's some money. I just got home. How are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And she goes, I'm 3 months behind on my payment. I have to sell this. And I was like, I'll buy it. Don't worry. And she was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, okay. And I was like, hey, Dad, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to buy this duplex. He was like, how? I was like, I don't know. Anyway, got a great deal, rented it out. It was cash flowing. And that's when I got my first taste of like what kind of real estate can do. Mm-hmm. And we'll get to that here later on in the line. But I fill those up. I start selling 20, 30 couches a month and making good margins. And at the end of my first year, my doctorate, I was like, Dad, this is the numbers I'm doing. I'm pretty happy with this. It's more than I'm going to make if I graduate. I want to drop out of the program and sell dirty used couches. And he was like, okay, that's fine. He's like, you pushed back. I know this is what you want to do. And I was like, I'm going to take this serious, and I'm excited about it.
So I have a similar story. Like, it's really interesting because we were around the same age when all that stuff was happening, it sounds like. But in 2017, I started flipping phones, and then I had another job, and then I'd go to college and all that. Well, we started doing well with the phones to where me and a partner decided we were going to partner and start this phone store. And so, we opened the phone store. It does pretty well. And then like a year later, and I'm still in school and everything, I decided that I'm going to start the second store. And around that time is when I broke the news to my parents that I was going to drop out. And they were pretty upset, as your dad probably was for you. But it helped that I at least had kind of a plan and was like, look, this is doing well. I'm going to jump on and start another store. And so it kind of softened the blow. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah. But
they ultimately wanted what was best for me. And I can see outside. I mean, I was just some college kid selling couches I picked up for free. And they're like, he doesn't want to, do this career and do this thing that doesn't really even seem very viable long term. So I appreciate that they were looking out for me ultimately. But I was like, I can do this. I know I can do this. And so fast forward, drop out of the program, and we open a store in St. Louis, and I bring on one of my buddies as a business partner and gave him some equity, and we're selling 60 to 80 couches a month for a while, and trucks and trailers and warehouses packed full, and it was a blast. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I wouldn't trade it for anything. That was an incredible experience to dip my toe into business and see the inner workings of, oh, this is what it actually means to do this and do this sustainably. And
So what was the most exciting part for you? Was it finding a good deal, or was it getting the couches sold? What did you like the most about it?
Well, our margins on these couches is we can't pick them up unless we're going to make $300 or $400 on them. And so the freedom that it would allow me to pick up these couches, and a lot of them we don't do anything to. We're just competing for something that no one else is competing for. And I've got multiple people watching the marketplace all day long to find these couches. And so it's very exciting to me to be able to provide that and that sort of lifestyle, financial stability. Because like I said, I was broke in college, and it was just so exhilarating to know that I can do something, have a lot of fun, and provide for myself. And that's honestly all I do now too. Yeah. So this was at a time when everyone had stimulus checks. And so these couches were flying off the shelves. I mean, it was crazy. And so I just we didn't really have massive growth or overhead. I mean, I got the cheapest warehouse that I could. And so we were saving a lot of money each month, more money than I was like, this is an unreasonable amount of money to be making off these couches every month. And so for me, the goal was to get into real estate, because as I was making all these pickups and all these deliveries, I was listening to 4 or 5 Bigger Pockets episodes every day. And I was like, I got to get into houses. And that was what fueled me, because there's, some things with our business. We buy all the couches on Facebook. We sell all the couches on Facebook. If something happens to Facebook, this business is zero. Yeah. And so as far as something that was sustainably long-term, that really excited me, because, I love a good deal. And it was that launch pad that was going to give me the opportunity and the time to be able to, what I thought, learn about something that would, be what I would do for a long time.
So as you started making more money, you started making that transition into real estate?
I made the transition kind of abruptly, and this is something that it still blows me away when I talk about it, because I met my business partner now with Hive, because our wives worked together. They were NICU nurses, and we got together April of last year. And I will never forget, I set the goal at the beginning of the year that I wanted to do 3 houses that year. And I didn't know the construction side of things. I didn't have a good lender. I had remodeled, I'd done some paint, and I was like, I'm going to remodel 3 houses this year, not knowing what I am getting into at all. And I bought a deal from my now business partner and renovated it, and it went great. And I got to have a rental that cash flows with no money down, and it was a great deal. And after doing that deal, I completed it in May, I think. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to do 3 houses this year. This is way too hard, because I was working full time, and then I'd go work on that in the evenings. And, fast forward to the end of the year, I think we did 28 properties by the end of the year. And it just really blows me away to see how much you can get done with the right people and systems and processes. It just really was a big paradigm shift for me that ultimately led into last year as well.
Yeah.
So
what did you guys tweak that allowed you to hit the 76 or whatever the following year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the market's tough right now. Interest rates are high. And what we were seeing is we were finding a lot of houses that were good deals, but with rates being so high and rents being fairly stagnant in the short term, a lot of deals were just barely not penciling. And, if it doesn't hit our numbers, we're not going to buy it.
Yeah.
And so the idea that Michael and I both had was, maybe we can bring these construction guys in-house, because we were subbing everything out at that time. And the logic was, we had a certain group of subcontractors that we were using. It wasn't a huge group of guys, but, we could process 28 houses in a year with them. So it was a solid lineup. And I was like, okay, well, what if we bring in 3 construction crews, 9 guys, 3 3-man teams, and have these guys be able to go start to finish on these houses? We could do way more houses. Yep. And that's ultimately what we did, is we found that once we got over 6 or 7 guys, it was more for me to manage, brought in a project manager to oversee those guys, and still have all of them today. And so we end up getting to, we were up to 30 people in our organization at one point in time, but that was way too many people that Michael and I wanted to manage. And so right now we're sitting at about 18 people. And at the beginning of the year, we said, I want to touch 75 houses this year, whether it's, buy it, don't do anything to it, list it on the market, assign it to another investor, keep it as a rental, however that shapes out. And we can kind of work backwards, because we don't like projects that take longer than 6 weeks, just because there's so many things that come along with that. We like to get in and get out and get the revenue through the system, or get the asset stabilized. And so with that in mind, we kind of work backwards with, okay, if we want to do this many houses at this duration, well, then we need this many teams or this many more subs to fill in those gaps. And that's ultimately what allowed us to do that, along with, being really blessed with hiring really talented people to help us in the office along the way.
Yep. Me and Haley are always blown away by how many different ways you can make money in real estate. Like, there's so many different models that work. It's just really crazy. Like, you say most of your flips are within six weeks, and you'll have them done and all that. Most of mine are much longer, but we do bigger rehabs. Mm-hmm. And then we actually I mentioned earlier that we took on one that should take only 2 weeks, and we should have it back on the market. But it's just interesting, all these different ways to make money. You can wholesale, you can flip, you can do long-term holds, stuff like that. So It's really interesting.
Yeah, and the more that we renovated these houses, the less we were inclined to want to wholesale them, because once we got up to 5 or 6 construction crews, it was like, okay, well, these guys are going to need something to work on. Like, we could wholesale this, but we have all this revenue coming in from the past flips that we did that are on the market. And it made us not want to wholesale really anything, because we had to keep this ball moving forward, keep plenty of projects moving forward. It's really simple when you've got 1 or 2 crews, but when you've got 5 or 6 and you're balancing 5 or 6 schedules, and it just was tricky and inclined us to just flip all of them. Just made more sense.
Yeah. So what's one of the biggest lessons you feel like you've learned in life or in business?
That's a tough question. I would say probably having a mindset of abundance and not a mindset of scarcity, where it is okay to be generous. It is what we should be. I think that's the only way to live, to not withhold anything, because this is my business. Like, if you ask me anything, I'm happy to tell you all the inner workings of it, because there's plenty to go around. I want to be able to build up all those people around me and affect people in a really positive way. And I think through that mindset, me being someone who's very competitive, sometimes you just get so focused on what you're doing and forget about the big picture.
That's really good, man. I feel like we all get caught up in like thinking about our current circumstances and not seeing the abundance side, like monies and opportunities all around us. We just have to figure out what they are and turn over the right stone, right?
Right.
So, I think everyone struggles with that. But if you have that mindset shift, you'll be much better off with it.
Yeah, so. And ultimately, for me, being in this for such a short time period and being so competitive, I see you or Josh Manning or all these guys in town that have just made these huge, beautiful organizations. And I have to remind myself to be only competing against who I was yesterday and last week and last month. Yeah. And I lose a lot of satisfaction when I deviate from that. Mm-hmm. And so that I would say those 2 things are things that are really present in my mindset as I move forward. Yeah. So,
as we kind of talked about earlier, basically the comparison is the thief of joy. So if you are focused on what other people have, or like you feel like you're falling behind because you're comparing yourself unfairly to someone else. Like we're all just trying to grow and do our best. Like if we just improve a little bit every day, we'll be fine. So
yeah, absolutely.
And the competitiveness gets to me too. Like I just, it's a problem. Like, and it's not, I don't think God intended us to be like that. Like we shouldn't have to feel like we have to prove ourselves to anyone other than to him. So,
right. Yeah, absolutely.
So what does believe in yourself mean to you? Like it's something I use in a lot of my posts. To me, it's like there's something that you want to, like everyone has something in life that they want to achieve. So you have to believe in yourself and believe that you can be the one that can achieve that. It's not just some pipe dream that is out there. Like you have to just, know that you can do it and go after it.
Yeah. I honestly don't think about that topic very often. But I feel like my parents did such a tremendous job instilling in me, if you want to do something, just go out and do it. It wasn't like, consider how this might not work. I don't have the shelves in my brain for those thoughts to sit on. And the way that I operate is I love to get obsessed with things. And for me, that obsession turns into a lot of intrinsic motivation. And once I find that intrinsic motivation, I'm just like, well, I'm gonna do 70 or 80 houses this year, and I don't have the systems and processes, but I'm not thinking about all the ways that it can fail. I'm gonna do everything that I can to put together systems that it'll work, and then I know that there's going to be turbulence, and I'm okay with that. And so it's just this kind of the way I navigate things.
Yeah. So, kind of hitting on that, what are some of your goals that you're currently trying to achieve? Like, is your big goal that 80 flips a year for this upcoming year, or what's your plan next year and then maybe 5 years out?
Yeah, right now, going through a bit of a transition on the business side of things. I don't have a lot of goals aside from I want my work to be really sustainable. I want to enjoy thoroughly what I do when I come to the office and do the things that I'm passionate about. Could not be more interested in getting some multifamily and getting a lot more units and things like that and getting a lot more cash flow. I don't have a number. I think I'll be able to define that more clearly here in a few months. But this is probably something I need to do. I haven't given it a 5-year thought yet because it still feels like I'm so new to all this, still trying to wrap my head around everything. But this is obviously what I want to do for a long time. Yeah. So I definitely need to think on that.
And it's also incredible. Like, I don't know. I don't think I've ever met anyone that's gotten that many flips done and stuff in a year. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So do you have anything that, like, is there anything that you tried to shoot for that you didn't quite hit, like, in the last couple of years? Like, because it seems like all these goals you've just, like, killed. Like,
I think I'll get imbalanced and obsessed, and sometimes I will get obsessed and get off the path and get focused on different things, or get too focused on the construction side of things and allow my systems and processes on the acquisition side or the lead generation side or taking time off side to become imbalanced. And so I think that's really difficult to say because I haven't defined a lot of goals that I wanted to hit prior. I just wanted to figure out how to do it, and then we just got moving so fast. It was just kind of what we were doing. Yeah. And so maybe
that's a great problem to have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so how have you grown over the years, and is there something that makes you more successful than you used to be?
When I was younger, I wasn't really focused on what I was doing, but I think that was also because essentially all I did when I was younger was play sports. That was my entire life. And I was doing it because I could, because it was fun, and I was good at it, but I didn't understand what my motivation was to do it. And for whatever reason, selling dirty used furniture out of my garage just turned something on in my brain that I was like, oh, like I find so much fulfillment and purpose in doing this thing. And that's just what I want to find each day, whether that's with couches or houses. And so I think I have a pretty sensitive gauge to the things that fill me with life. And I just only try to do that. And it just so happened to be a ton of construction and real estate last year. So,
I know you mentioned Bigger Pockets, and I was just curious, is there any other podcasts that you listen to? And then what are some of your favorite books?
Right now, I really love the Onward podcast by Fundrise. They're the one that sponsor On the Market by Bigger Pockets.
Okay.
I do listen to On the Market by Bigger Pockets. I don't listen to the regular Bigger Pockets anymore. And I listen to Fort Capital. As far as favorite books, my favorite business book is Principles by Ray Dalio. And the way that he perceives the world in front of him and strives to record his thoughts and always be in touch with reality, that is something that I think about weekly, if not daily, with what I'm doing in my business. Is this in touch with the reality of what I'm trying to get to and what the market needs and what I'm trying to create? Mm-hmm. So
that one, I've heard that one several times. It's like a classic, but I've never read it. I need to sit down and read that one.
Yeah, it definitely changes the way that I navigate the business world more than anything else that I've read.
That's cool. Did you read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
No.
You haven't read that?
No. You recommend it?
Read that, yes. That's how a lot of people, you kind of have a different take on the real estate, but that's what gets a lot of people in real estate in the beginning. So, I don't know, maybe you did something right by not reading it. I'm just kidding.
I do have apprehension to reading books like that. I don't want to read books like that. I read the Ray Dalio book because one of my mentors recommended that I read it. I read every book that he says. And I don't want to have any preconceived notions about what to or not to do. I kind of just want to wander through the hurdles and cause myself to bang my head into the wall. That's the way that I really learn. And so my only philosophy with reading books is I want to go 1,000,000 miles an hour forward, and wherever I'm at, there's a hurdle, and I'm going to read a book to get over that hurdle. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to read another book until I get to another hurdle and read a book to get over that hurdle. It's like, that's kind of how I use reading. I don't use it to do something that's not immediately going to step up what I'm doing. If that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before, but I mean, the logic's there.
Yeah.
And I guess in a way, if you read too many books, then you're just clouded with too much information that you might not need. And
that's what would happen is I would read this book on managing people, and I don't even have a team. That's a poor book choice on my part, because I'm going to get focused on it. I'm going to take some notes, and then what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
Just put it on the shelf for later. It's like, what am I doing right now? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how I landed on that, because I was getting distracted.
So what are some of your struggles that you're encountering, or what's something you did encounter, and how'd you get through it, or how are you going to get through it?
Yeah, I would say something prior that we struggled with was not recognizing how important the construction timeline is, mm-hmm. and what all the things that come with that, because I need forward-leaning projects for my construction crews, yep. But you have to buy good deals because you have to make money on these. And you also have a ton of overhead because you have a lot of people in the office. And I would say my naive opinion of how similar it would be to run a company that was 4 people versus 30 people. And the data that you need for 4, I could keep in my head. And the data that I need for 18, I need systems, spreadsheets, accountants. I need revenue schedules. I need things that are tracking my bank accounts. I need revenue projections. And I just really had no idea what I was doing, mm-hmm. to put it simply. And I learned really quickly how much the data is the lifeblood of what you're doing. And that was what would make me stressed. Not because we didn't have enough money, not because of anything happening in the market, but it was, I don't know where we're at with this stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, I have so much money going out the door every week in payroll. I've got all this revenue that I think is going to come in. Not sure when it's going to land. So it's like knowing what's my revenue schedule, how many leads do I need to have purchases by what date, like having all those things in the data so that I can look on one spreadsheet and be like, okay, boom, 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 boom. Oh, we need some more leads, or we've got way too many houses. There's 4 houses sitting on vacant right now. I'm going to call all my subs, kind of thing. And so to have clarity.
I've definitely been there. Like
Yeah.
trying to piece everything together with basically clouded information, because it's kind of in your head,
Right.
but you gotta, yeah, definitely been there.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of in the same boat as you, like trying to get, like we're starting to implement Monday.com, and that'll help create systems and should make everything a little smoother. And then the data should be right there, so you can just make the decision easier.
Like I crave the day when Monday.com is completely built out for me, because that's what I have muddled through on 50 different spreadsheets, and I'm like, one place, consolidated information, charts and graphs, because I'm super visual, so I'll have all these pages on my desk and I'll like want to leave them out, because if I can't see it, I'll forget about it, and that's just kind of the way that I am.
Yeah.
And so I need to be able to see everything. It's probably a weakness, but it's what works for me.
So is there something that you're scared to do, but you should do it, and that'll take you to the next level?
Yeah, for me, I feel like I want to really intentionally pursue some degree of a self-managing company. And my hesitancies about that are relinquishing control to some aspects. And I just know that it's going to be difficult to find the right individuals to be able to make them capable to execute on the vision that I see. And so that's probably I think there's going to be great returns there. I think there's going to be some turbulence for sure. But I do want to pursue that really intentionally moving forward.
I think in my business, if I could figure out a way to do that, that would be a game changer. Like if I could take the real estate side, because I've basically already kind of done that with the phone stores, but if I could do that with the real estate, I mean, the sky's the limit on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've already got the framework, so it might not be an exact plug and play because of the industry difference, but if you know how to find talent, and I feel like that's one of the hardest things to do, is to know it when you see it and then be able to invest in the right people and empower them.
Yep. Do you ever struggle with letting go of that power, or are you pretty good at like just being kind of hands off?
I think there's a balance there. I want to have people that have that, so I'm willing to take the risk. But I have to be in that position financially to be able to accept that kind of risk, because I didn't realize how much, it wasn't in our monthly budget on like how many people we would hire and train and lose. That wasn't in our monthly, expenses that we were inspecting on. But this guy that I train for this long to learn our systems and do all these things and then leaves, it's like, whoa, well, we spent 20, 30 hours on this individual, and that happens, 10 times because I was interviewing hundreds of people. It adds up.
Yeah.
It's just a cost to be aware of, and I was not aware of that initially.
Oh. It sucks when it happens, but I mean, it's kind of inevitable to happen eventually.
Right. And when you find those talented individuals, it makes all of it worth it over and over again.
Yep. What advice would you give someone that really wants to succeed? Maybe they're a younger guy like us. What advice would you give them to go out there and make something happen?
Yeah, I think this could mean a lot of different things to different people, but for me, I have to know who I am and who my identity is. And for me, that identity is in Christ, and that determines largely how I live that determines how I live every aspect of my life.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be where I am today had, the Lord not blessed me in certain things and in certain ways, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. But I think that is something that I would say is at the top of the list, to know your identity, and everything is going to stem from that. And if you don't have an identity, and if you don't have a solid identity, how are you going to have vision and clarity to be able to pursue something at the level that you're capable of.
Absolutely. So you sound like a type of guy that intertwines business and Christianity, right? You like your faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think if you separate them, then you're really living two separate lives.
Yeah. Because
if you really say that you're a Christian and you believe like in God and you don't live that way in every aspect, like, I mean, there's always, everyone has their struggles, but if it's consistent, then there's like a disconnect there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, it's running a business is really challenging, and I fail all the time at, various things, but at the end of the day, that is, my main focus.
So what legacy do you want to leave? It can be material. It could be, family, how people look at you. Like what kind of legacy do you want to leave?
Yeah, I haven't considered much the legacy that I want to leave. I feel like I'm still getting up and running. But I do think, what is going to be here once I leave is going to be the impact that I had on people. Mm-hmm. And I want to be known for someone that loves people really well. I want to be known for someone that has, spaciousness and awareness to be able to meet everyone at the same table, at the same level for the entirety of my life. And I want to be able to provide value and edify and build up every single person that I can. That is what truly motivates me.
How can people connect with you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook at my name. But I don't have any of the other social medias or anything like that. And I only have Facebook because I use Facebook Marketplace, and I delete the app whenever I'm not using it. So I might be kind of hard to get a hold of on there, but find me on Facebook, shoot me a message, and I'll be happy to give you my phone number and help anyone with anything that they have.
It's probably good. Do you do it for productivity reasons? Like, do you delete the app?
I have to, because I'll get on it.
I'm really guilty of that. So occasionally I will delete the app and then reinstall it whenever I need to do something. But
I'll delete it 2 or 3 times a day.
Dang.
But I'm actively getting things on there right now that are gonna push the business forward, like looking for some trailers and things like that. And once I'm ready to just buy one, I'll overpay for one at this point because I'm tired of having to re-download the app. So.
What do you mean buy one of what?
A trailer.
Oh,
I'm looking to get a trailer on there right now, a trailer and some other things. And so obviously looking for a good deal, but I'm getting kind of impatient. I haven't been looking for very long, but I'm like, I'm just going to buy one at this point because I'll get on there and waste some time.
Yeah. And then do you have a final message for our audience?
That is another great question. Yeah, I would revert back to what I mentioned earlier. I thought there was no way I could do 3 houses in a year, and then we did just about 30. And so at least my ability to conceptualize what I can do with the right pieces in play doesn't give justice to what can actually be a reality for you. And so I would say go after it with everything you can.
Absolutely, man. That was really good.
Thanks.
Thank you guys for watching the Kurima podcast. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.